Hello there, everyone. You are welcome. The BRICS alliance is on a quest to upend the US dollar and replace its dominance with local currencies. The shift towards settling trade in local currencies has been on the rise since the White House pressed sanctions on Russia in 2022. Developing countries are sidelining the US dollar for cross-border transactions and increasingly using local currencies for payment settlements. The greenback stands at the crossroads of a global change that could deplete its power and control over the world's financial markets. Such a development could wreak havoc on the American economy, leading to a major shift and market collapse. Deutsche Bank predicts that the US dollar is on the losing side. Deutsche Bank wrote in its recent note to stakeholders that the US dollar could end up being on the losing side. The report comes after the BRICS alliance aggressively pursued the de-dollarization agenda to topple the US dollar. We do not write this lightly, but the speed and scale of global shifts is so rapid that this needs to be acknowledged as a possibility, said George Saravelos, the Deutsche Bank's global head of FX strategy, in a note to clients. The bank wrote that the US dollar is not strengthening materially as BRICS advances the de-dollarization initiative worldwide. It is hard to overestimate the scale of taking place in global economic and geopolitical relations in a matter of days. What stands out in today's market reaction is that the dollar is not strengthening materially. We would not have expected these market moves at the start of the year. Saravelos stated. The note also read that the geopolitical shift will usher in a weaker dollar, making BRICS take the win. Bringing it all together, we are starting to become more open-minded to the prospects of a broader, weaker trend unfolding for the dollar. Two pillars of America's role in the world are being fundamentally challenged: the U.S.'s security backstop for Europe and the respect of rules-based free trade. Deutsche Bank summed it up. The U.S. dollar may lose its traditional safe haven status as global markets adjust to a new geopolitical order, according to Deutsche Bank AG. We do not write this lightly, but the speed and scale of global shifts is so rapid that this needs to be acknowledged as a possibility, said George Saravelos, the bank's global head of FX strategy, in a note to clients. It is hard to overestimate the scale of change taking place in global economic and geopolitical relations in a matter of days. Amidst all this, the world ganged up against the US dollar as the White House weaponized the currency to destabilize the economies of developing countries. The sanctions imposed on Russia in February 2022 ruffled a lot of feathers, making BRICS kickstart the de-dollarization agenda to safeguard their economies. BRICS made the US dollar the villain of the world, convincing other countries that it's stunting back their growth. The move will make the greenback lose out in the supply and demand mechanism of the currency markets. Local currencies could thrive, pushing the US dollar to the backseat of the global economy. The paradigm shift could lead to inflation in the homeland, making the cost of daily essentials skyrocket. Quantum Strategy's David Roch said that Donald Trump's tariffs on goods are making things worse for the US. BRICS started the de-dollarization agenda as a kickback to White House sanctions, and now will regroup to take on tariffs. He explained that the U.S. will be the big loser, while China will gain the most from the mindless tariffs. The big loser is the U.S., how BRICS gains from the de-dollarization wave. The ongoing geopolitical and economic shifts are positioning BRICS as a major beneficiary in the global financial landscape, while the US dollar faces unprecedented threats due to sanctions and tariffs imposed by Washington. Renowned strategist David Roch has openly stated that the biggest loser in this scenario is the United States, as its aggressive tariff policies and the weaponization of the dollar have shattered global trust in American economic leadership. How China gains from U.S. mistakes. With BRICS actively pushing for de-dollarization, China is strategically benefiting from the growing distrust in the U.S. dollar. Roch emphasized that the global south is now gravitating towards China's economic orbit as nations seek alternatives to avoid being vulnerable to U.S. sanctions and financial control. China's efforts to expand the cross-border interbank payment system, CIPS, and settle trade in yuan have accelerated, with countries like Russia, Brazil, and even Saudi Arabia showing interest in using the yuan for oil and gas transactions. The Japanese yen as a safe haven. Interestingly, Raj also pointed out that the Japanese yen could emerge as a trusted currency as U.S. policies continue to alienate other nations. Japan's stable economy and strategic neutrality in global conflicts make the yen an attractive alternative for international reserves. Nassim Taleb's warning, a gradual collapse of the dollar. Adding to this perspective, Nassim Taleb, author of The Black Swan, warned that sanctions and tariffs are accelerating the decline of the U.S. dollar's global dominance. Speaking to Bloomberg in October, Taleb expressed deep concerns about a progressive loss of confidence in the dollar as more countries seek to shield themselves from American financial influence. BRICS' ultimate goal: uprooting the dollar from global reserve status. The BRICS alliance, comprising Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and new members like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, has one primary objective: dethroning the U.S. dollar from its global reserve currency status. By creating new payment mechanisms, boosting trade in local currencies, and developing a BRICS alternative to the SWIFT system, the alliance is successfully weakening the dollar's grip on international trade and finance. What does this mean for the U.S.? The loss of global trust in the dollar will lead to less demand for U.S. Treasury bonds, impacting America's ability to finance its debt. Inflation in the U.S. could skyrocket as foreign investors move away from dollar-backed assets. The U.S. economy will face greater isolation, while emerging economies like China, India, and Brazil will dominate global trade. The final blow. With Donald Trump's return to power and his aggressive tariff policies, the U.S. is not only alienating its rivals, but also its traditional allies in Europe and Asia. As Raj rightly put it, no country will trust a U.S. treaty again. As BRICS tightens its grip on global trade and pushes for a multipolar financial system, the de-dollarization movement seems unstoppable. Thanks for stopping by. If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and see you in our next video. Goodbye for now.